Hi Sumate, welcome back to my channel. It's Needles by Tiara here. And on today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to draft this beautiful corset blouse with a puff sleeve as displayed on the thumbnail. So without no further ado, let's dive right into it. So here's my pattern paper well laid out. Please ensure that your pattern paper is on fold. However, mine isn't on fold. But once I transfer this to my fashion fabric, I would ensure that that point is on fold. Having done that, we'd go ahead to roll out a straight line on this point, which is this. So that straight line is going to serve as our starting line and equally our shoulder point line. Place your tape from that point, mark the distance between your client's shoulder to bust point, your client's shoulder to under bust point, your client's shoulder to waist point, and lastly your client's shoulder to full corset length point, which is this. Now I'll go in with my straight ruler, connecting all those points into each other to form a straight line. Having marked out our straight line, now we'll go ahead to label our pattern. This is my shoulder point, my bust point, my under bust point, my waist point, and lastly my full blouse length point. So moving on your shoulder point line, you're going to be placing your tape from that point and you're going to be coming down with the distance between your client's shoulder to chest point. So to get that value, divide your client's bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now I've gone ahead to chalk down my value. I'll go in with my straight ruler, connect that point into a straight line and go ahead to label this part to be your chest point. Now for our circumference measurement, on your shoulder point, divide your client's shoulder circumference by 2, chalk it down at that point. The value you have imputed on your shoulder point, bring down that same value down to your chest point this way. Now going with your straight ruler, connecting from your shoulder point into your chest point. Having done that, now we'd go ahead to impute our neckline. So this is really not required. However, let's proceed on. On your neck width, impute 3 inches, and for your neck depth, go ahead to impute 3 inches as well. Now on that point, which is your shoulder point line, come down at that point by 1 inch. Going with your curve ruler, connecting from the 3 inches neckline width into your 3 inches neckline depth this way. Reintroduce your straight ruler, connect from that point all the way down to the 1 inch to get your shoulder slope. Now place your tape from your shoulder slope line all the way into your chest point line. Fold your tape into 2 to find the midpoint of that line. So go ahead to chalk it down. Seal on the midpoint, coming at that point by 0.5 inch. And now on your chest point, we'd go ahead to extend that line all the way in. Now on your chest point, you're going to be dividing your client's bust circumference by 4 and you chalk it down at that point. With the introduction of my armhole cuff, I'll be connecting from my shoulder slope into the 0.5 inch that we came in with on the midpoint and extensively down to my chest point. So just watch what I did at this point and do go ahead to replicate same. So on my bust point, I would go ahead to divide my client's bust span, which is my nipple to nipple, by 2, chalk it down on that point. Now that value imputed on my bust point, I'll bring it all the way down to my full blouse length point this way. Reintroduce your straight ruler, connecting from your bust point all the way down to your full blouse length. So before we proceed on, we'll go ahead to label our pattern. So this is my center front, which is the folded part of my pattern paper, and this is my side front. So please take note, your center front and your side front. So now on our shoulder point line, following the shoulder slope all the way up to that point, we'd go ahead to determine the midpoint of that line by folding our tape into 2 and chalking it down. Reintroducing our straight ruler, would connect from the midpoint of our shoulder line into our bust point this way. I hope you understand. Having done that, now for our under bust point, we'd go ahead to impute our under bust contour, or you could call it your under bust tightening. So on our center front, still on our under bust point, would impute 1 inch. And on our side front, still at our under bust point, would impute 1 inch as well. Now we're going to be taking that value all the way down to your full blouse length for both your center front and your side front. So at this point, going with your straight ruler, connect from your under bust point all the way down to your full blouse length for both your center front and your side front. Having done that, on our bust point line, place your tape from that point and come down at that point by 1 inch. Reintroduce your curve ruler, connecting from the 1 inch that you came down with on your bust point into your under bust point tightening. So I do hope you understand. So please basically watch the way I'm placing my curve ruler at this point, and do go ahead to replicate them for yours. So we've done that for our center front. Now we'll go ahead to replicate the same process for our side front. Having imputed our under bust tightening, now for our over bust point, we'll go ahead to determine the value of our off shoulder or our over bust point. So you could use in between the value of 5 to 8 inches, or better still, you could use the distance of your bust to your under bust point. So whatever you have as the value, place it on your bust point and take it all the way up. So you could chalk down that value as your off shoulder or your over bust point. So I'm going to be using that value for mine. So I'll go ahead to take it all the way down here. Reintroducing my straight ruler, I'll connect that point into each other to form my straight line. So we've gotten our over bust point line. Now to your under bust point, the total that we have imputed at that point is 2 inches. So now on your over bust point, you're going to be distributing the smaller figure to the center front and the bigger figure to the side front. By that I mean, on my center front, I would impute 0.75, which I've already done. And on this part, which is my side front, I would go ahead to impute 1.25. And that would give me a total of 2 inches start. I hope you understand. Now we're going to be taking from that point into our bust point with the help of our curve ruler. So blend from that point into your bust point for your center front, and on your side front rather, go ahead to connect from your bust point all the way up to your over bust dart this way. With that being done, now we'll go ahead to determine the depth of our cup. So on your bust point, you could either come up at that point by 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. You could even use your chest point as your cup depth. So but for mine, I'm going to be using my chest point as my cup depth point. So on that point, for my bust breech, I would go ahead to impute 0.5 inch at that point. And I'll be taking that measurement to my bust point and lastly to my under bust point. Outgoing with my straight ruler, connecting that point into a straight line this way. Having done that, now we'll go ahead to take out the measurements that we have for our over bust curve. So we're going to be taking this measurement. So this is to ensure that both sides are aligned perfectly. In case we have a shortage, we'll go ahead to augment for that shortage on the shorter parts. So as you can see at this point, I have a bit of shortage. I've gone ahead to replace it. And with the aid of my curve ruler, I would go ahead to extend from that point all the way up here. So with this being done, both your center front and your side front over bust curve will align perfectly. So now we'll go ahead to draw out our center front cup curve. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed. Connect from that point into the 0.5 inch bust breech that you imputed at that point. I hope you understand. So this is it for my center front. And now for our side front, remember on this point we imputed our bust span divided by 2, which is our nipple to nipple. Now the bust is fuller on the side, and for that reason you're going to be adding 0.5 inch to that measurement for a smaller bust. But for a bigger bust, go ahead to impute 0.75 or 1 inch to that measurement. So I've gone ahead to add 0.5 inches to that measurement, and I've chalked it down at that point. So on your chest point line, you're going to be coming down at that point by 0.5 inch. I hope you understand. So reintroduce your curve ruler or your straight ruler, connect those points into each other to form a straight line this way. Now, whatever measurement that we have imputed on our former chest point, would bring it down to our new chest point line this way. So with that being done, I'll go ahead to extend that line all the way in this way. Now for our side front cup cuff, we're going to be connecting from that point into our under bust point. So please just pay attention to what I'm doing at this point and go ahead to replicate that same process. So you could see how our cup cuff sits perfectly on both our center front and our side front. So we're further going to go in by 0.25 on both sides of our over bust dart, and we're going to be connecting from that 0.25 into our bust point on both sides. So take from the 0.25 imputed on your center front over bust dart, take it to your bust point. On the side front, go ahead to replicate that same process as well. I hope you understand. With this being done, this other part is no longer valid. So the initial overbust cup curve that we imputed is no longer valid. 0.25 inch on both sides is the current valid point. I hope you understand. So just like we did before, we'd go ahead to take out this measurement following the curved lines into our bust points. So now on this other part, we'd go ahead to impute that same measurement. So you're going to realize the fact that we have a bit of shortage, and we've gone ahead to replace it on this side. So go ahead to reintroduce your curve ruler, extend from that point all the way up. So now we're going to be drawing out our overbust cup curve for our center front. So to do that, we're going to be connecting from that point into the 0.5 inch that we imputed for our bust bridge. So please pay attention to the way my curve ruler is being placed at this point, and do go ahead to replicate same for yours. So we've done that for our center front cup curve. Now for our side front cup curve, we'll connect it into our new chest point line. So remember, our new chest point line is the valid point line. So on this point, we imputed our circumference measurement, which was our bust circumference divided by 4 on our new chest point line. We'd go ahead to replace the data that we have in between on this side. Now for our bust point, divide your client's bust circumference by 4 and go ahead to replace that 1 inch that we had imputed on that point. Now to your under bust point, go ahead to divide your client's under bust circumference by 4 and chalk it down. Now you're going to be replacing the dart that we have in between. So I have a total dart of 2 inches, and I would go ahead to replace it on the side. For our waist point, divide your client's waist circumference by 4 as well. Chalk it down at that point. Go ahead to replace the 2 inches dart that you have in between on the sides. And lastly, to your full blouse length point, you're going to be dividing your client's hip circumference by 4. You'd go ahead to chalk it down. Please ensure to replace the dart of 2 inches in between that you have on the side as well. With that being done, we'd go in with our straight ruler, connecting from our new chest point line into our waist point. So please ensure you make your connection from your new chest point line into your waist point line. So the former chest point line is no longer valid. I hope you understand. So take from that point all the way in, and extensively from your waist point down to your full blouse length point this way. So now go ahead to smoothen out this point. We do not want any sharp edge. Now moving on, we'd go ahead to eliminate all the excesses that we have at every given point. But before we do that, for those who would want to attach a yoke to theirs, you're going to be connecting from that point all the way down here this way. So go ahead to smoothen out that point. So now, like I said, we'd go ahead to eliminate all the excess that we have on this point. So at this point, I won't have to do much of the talking. Just sit back and watch while I take you through the process. So at this point, we'd go ahead to detach our yoke following the curve lines that we have imputed on that point. So take from your bust breach of 0.5 inch, follow out the drawn out curve that we have imputed at this point. And from that point, please take note, you're going to be cutting through into your new chest point line. So remember, we came down at that point by 0.5 inch. You're going to be taking it all the way down to that 0.5 inch this way and cut through into that point this way. I hope you understand. So we'll go ahead to keep our yoke aside. So before we proceed on, let's label our pattern. This is my center front one. This is my side front one. This is my center front one, two, and this is my side front two. So please ensure to label your pattern. Go ahead to make some arrow on those points so as not to get confused. So please ensure that your pattern is well labeled so you do not get it mixed up. Slash open from the midpoint of your dart all the way up to your overbust point this way. So with that being done, we've detached our center front from our side front. So now we'll go ahead to eliminate our underbust dart tightening that we had imputed on this point for our center front. So just take through from that point into your underbust point. And from your underbust point, take through that point following the curves that you have imputed on that point. Now for our overbust dart, we're going to go ahead to take it off from this part following the curve lines that we had imputed on that point. So this is it for our center front. Now for our side front, we'd go ahead to replicate that same process. So if you have watched this video to this point, what are you waiting for? Kindly hit on the subscription button, like and follow for more of this related content. Eliminated all our darts, now we'll go ahead to take out our center front cup curve and our side front cup curve. So to do that, you're going to be taking through following the curve lines that you had imputed on this point. So we've done this for our center front. Now for our side front, we'll go ahead to replicate that same process following the curve lines that we had imputed on that point. So with this being done, you can see how beautiful our pattern is already coming out. So please go ahead to label your pattern like I said. Your center front one, your center front two, your side front one, your side front two. Now go ahead to keep your cup aside. So now we'll go ahead to use our masking tape to hold this part down. Having done that, I would go ahead to trim out the excess solo tape that I have at that point. So to achieve the box effect that we have imputed on that point, we're going to extend our pattern paper. Place your tape from your full blouse length point and come down at that point by 3 inches, or you could do 2 inches as well. Go ahead to roll that point into a straight line and reconnect from that point into this point this way. Now we'll go ahead to eliminate the excess that we have at this point. So moving on my waist point, so remember this is my waist point line. I'm going to be placing my tape from that point and I'll be coming down at that point by 3 inches. So you could equally do 2 inches as well. Having done that, on that point, the extension line, I'll chalk down 2 inches. So for yours, do not chalk down 2 inches. Rather, go in with the value of 1.25 or even 1 inch. It is very, very okay. So with that being said, place your curve ruler connecting from that 3 inches imputed on your waist side into the 1 inch that you imputed on that point. So for mine, it was 2 inches and I've gone ahead to impute that point. So now I'm going to be extending that line all the way down so that it can be able to accommodate the extension that we had imputed on that point. So I would go in with my scissors and I would go ahead to take out the excess that I have at this point. So this is the reason why I said you should go ahead to extend that point all the way down. So you'd have to detach your center front from your side front. So just go ahead to detach it and voila, your pattern is ready. So now moving on to our back pattern, we'll go ahead to bring back this pattern. So you're going to bring back the center front, which is the folded part of your pattern paper for your front pattern. And you're going to be aligning it on that point. So you're going to be pinning it down. Don't worry, you'd get to understand the reason for this. So just go ahead to pin it down at this point. Now on this point, you're going to be taking out the measurement. So you're going to be following out the curve lines that you have imputed on your chest point, from your chest point down to your waist point, and the 3 inches extension that you had imputed on your waist point line. I hope you understand. So basically all your measurement is going to be stopping at that 3 inches for your back pattern. Be having any extension for your back pattern, hence the reason for this. So I've gone ahead to indicate all those points. This is my chest point, my waist point, and this other part is my 3 inches extension. Now I'll be rolling that point into a straight line this way. And now at my full, I'm going to be redrawing all these points. So just go ahead to connect it all the way in this way. So now bringing back my side front pattern, I would go ahead to align it, ensuring that both your chest point and the 3 inches extension meet perfectly. So like I said, all your measurement is going to be stopping at the 3 inches extension for your back pattern. It is only your front pattern that would carry the Basque effect point. I hope you understand. So just go ahead to connect that point all the way in this way. So now from your chest point on your center front, come down by 0.5 inch, reintroduce your straight ruler and connect it all the way down there. So this point is no longer valid. So I do not want it straight at that point. Hence the reason why I came down at that point by 0.5 inch. Now for your corset back opening, you're going to be imputing either 1 inch, 1.5 to 2 inches. It totally depends on your preference. So I've gone ahead to chalk down the 1 inch and I've connected from my chest point down to my 3 inches extension. So I'll go ahead to make this dots. So those dots is to show you that you're going to be attaching either your eyelet or your loops to that part. So the parts that we've gone ahead to make some strokes, we're going to be taking it off, which is the corset back opening for our eyelet. I hope you understand. So just go ahead to cut out all those parts following the lines. And now we're going to be taking off our corset back opening, which is this point. And voila, our pattern is ready. So you can see how beautiful and perfect our pattern came out looking. You could see the center front cup curve, the side front cup curve, the stylish hemline, which is the asymmetric hemline, or you could call it the Basque effect. You could see how beautiful your chest point flows evenly for both your front pattern and your back pattern. So now we've not added any allowance for this pattern. So on your side seam, you're going to be adding 2 inches. Whatever you have imputed on the side seam of the front pattern, you'd use that same side seam measurement for your back pattern. So all the way around, you're going to be imputing 0.5 inch on all the sides. Remember, on your center front, that point is going to be on fold. Every other part, you're going to be imputing 0.5 inch. With that being said, we've come to the end of our tutorial. Up next on my channel would be the sewing of this amazing, well drafted pattern. Thank you and see you on my next video. Bye.